today we're going to run through the two systems that you need to install into your gym to get essentially 10 to 30 new clients every month into your business. Okay. And we call this predictable acquisition. Okay. So it's essentially made up of two key systems, one for generating front end sales and one for then turning those clients who signed up to an initial intro program into long-term members. Now, just a very quick bit of background on me if you don't know who I am or you're new into like the gym owner world, so to speak. I opened my first gym back in 2013. I ran that gym until 2025, so about 12 years. And in that period of time, we acquired over 5,000 clients. So people coming into a 6-week challenge, 28-day challenge, all those different options. And then ultimately, a percentage of those becoming long-term members. And we did multiple millions of revenue over that period of time. And I sold that last September to two of my team members. Then in 2019, so kind of alongside running the gym, I started this business, Gymownr, and there's obviously still running that until today. And that's essentially been taking all the systems, the processes, and everything that I've first built into my gym to get these 5,000 clients and teaching it to other gym owners like yourselves. And so far, we've worked with well over 400 group training gyms across the UK, Ireland, and around the world. Okay, so really simple, little bit quick background on there. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is what we call the ceiling. Okay, this is a specific point that every gym hits. Okay, so usually, you start off at zero and you'll get to a certain point. Typically, this is like 50 to maybe 100 members if you've like done a really good job of it, but it's very common to be around 50, where you get from zero to around 50 members through word of mouth alone. And it feels like this trajectory is pretty good. You're growing pretty well, like word of mouth, organic, all that kind of stuff. But then what tends to happen is this tails off and you end up in this position where you're essentially having like one member in, one member out, and the result is kind of zero growth. Like I say, this happens typically around the 50 member mark, but there's lots of gyms that we have worked with and do work with that hit it at 100 or 150. We were speaking to one recently who's at the 250 member mark and has hit this one in, one out kind of plateau. Okay. Now, the issue with this is, like I mentioned, focusing too much on word of mouth and organic or being overly reliant on those two things. And the issue with that is these are not scalable past a certain point. Okay, you can't brute force your way to getting more word of mouth. You can't brute force your way to getting more organic, or it's very difficult to do that at scale and do it predictably. Okay. So in order to then go from this position where maybe you've hit this plateau of 50 to 100 members, and then you want to get up to here where it's, 100 to 150 to 200 members, you need a system that allows you to do that and do it in a repeatable, predictable, scalable manner. Okay, so essentially having a system where you can increase the inputs into the system and you get a corresponding increase in the outputs. Okay, now, like I said, the issue that a lot of gyms have is focusing on three main areas, which is your personal network. So trying to get clients from people who are, people you already know, people you were PT'd before, people that were already kind of in your world. And the issue with this is this number of people is quite small. Okay. You don't have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of these people. The other area that people focus on is followers. So people who follow them on social media. And again, this number of people is quite small overall for most gyms. You might have somewhere between like 500 to 2,000 followers. But from that, there's maybe only like 5 to 10% that are A, paying attention to you specifically, and then B, are like in the market to buy right now. Okay. Then the third area is referrals. Okay, so clients, friends. Now the issue with this is if you've got 50 members, the first time you ask them all for a referral, you might get 10. Okay, but then the next time you ask those same 50 people, you might only get six, then it's two, then you're struggling to get, one or it's even zero. Okay, so every time you ask for referrals from that same group of people, then the amount that you actually get from that reduces. Okay. Now, what we call this is warm traffic. This is people that already kind of like know who you are, are in your world. And the problem with this overall, like I've alluded to here, is it's small. It's a small group of people. It's finite. And there's a lot of overlap. Some people that are in your personal network are also in this 500 followers that you got. Some people that are, likely to be referred are also in this 500 follower number. Okay. So this number doesn't generally get much bigger and it's easy to run this dry. And that's why people hit this point where they go, wow, I got from like, 0 to 50 members or 0 to 100 members really quickly. But now everything that I was doing before that got me to there isn't really working. I'm just seeing this plateau where the amount of cancellations I get every month is matched by the amount of sales that I'm getting through word of mouth and organic. Okay, so how do we fix this is obviously the question. Now, we fix this using what we call the Gymownr equation, and there's three elements to the Gymownr equation. We're going to talk about one of them specifically today, but the first engine is predictable acquisition. Okay, and that's what we're going to cover today. This is where we're generating more leads, more sales, and more members. Okay, and that's what we're going to use to get those 10 to 30 new clients every month. Okay. And this is kind of like the top of the funnel, so to speak. Like everything is downstream from can you generate leads? Can you turn those leads into sales? Can you turn those sales into long-term members? And as I mentioned before, the two systems that make this up are the front end sales system, so turning strangers into leads and clients, and then the back end conversion system. Okay, so turning those clients into members. Then later down the line, which we're not going to cover today, but you've got maximize model, which is about more revenue and profit. So that's essentially your model maths and expanding revenue. And then you've got self-managing systems, which is about more time and freedom. So just building a business that can work without being solely reliant on you. But like I said, we're going to focus on predictable acquisition today. So the first system within predictable acquisition is front end sales. Okay. And this is turning strangers into leads and clients. Now, this is what this system looks like from a zoomed out perspective. Okay. There are two routes into this where we're going to generate traffic, eyeballs, and attention. One of those we're not really going to cover today because it's a really small part overall. I'll give you some pointers on this, but it's content and DM close. And so essentially content and warm outbound. This isn't going to be your primary source of leads and sales. What we are going to focus a lot on is the paid ad side of things, okay? Because we're going to have paid ads pushing into an offer that works for cold traffic. So people who don't know you, haven't heard about you until they've just seen your ad, an offer that works to turn them into leads and then clients. Then we're going to generate those people as leads. We're going to give them the option to sign up right away on a payment page. This is called our skip the queue page. It works extremely well. And then whilst that's happening, or while someone's become a lead, they're going to go through two systems. They're going to go through our propaganda email sequence, which is a sequence of emails that they get for the first 3 to 5 days after they become a lead. And then our call and SMS flows and process, okay? And all of those, the propaganda emails and the call and SMS process, I'm going to push them back to the payment page. And the aim is to obviously close as many of those leads as possible. So they become a sale, and then we take them into our back end conversion process where later on they become a full-time member who sticks around for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and pays, multiple thousands of pounds. Now, the other thing to focus on with this is not everyone who goes through this entire sales process is actually going to buy. So you might have 100 leads, you might close, 15 to 30 of them. Everyone who's a no sale, instead of doing what a lot of gym owners do, which is nothing, and just let them rot in the CRM and never get any contact from you ever again, we're going to put them into what we call our infinite email sequence, okay, where we continue to nurture and make offers and direct them back to that payment page. And those people that have got a longer conversion window, so, aren't ready to sign up today, but might be in a month's time, 2 months' time, 3 months' time, they will convert at that point, okay? So the first thing and most important thing for this is having a cold traffic offer. Okay, so essentially an offer that turns strangers into paying clients and does it quickly. Because a big mistake a lot of gym owners make, and I've made this myself in the past too, is you take an offer that works for warm traffic and you run paid ads to it. and then you get hardly any sales. And you come to the conclusion that like paid ads don't work for me. There's no way that I'm going to be able to make this work profitably. So I'm just going to go back to word of mouth and organic and hope for the best. Okay. But it wasn't actually necessarily the ads themselves. It was the offer. Okay. And a common example of this is gyms that take like a 30-day trial and they'll say something like, I've got 30-day trial with more than a gym, come test us, test yourself, see if you like it, and if you want to stick around, you can kind of thing. And it's not worded exactly like that, but it's as vague as that and as like non-compelling as that as well. And the issue with that is that kind of offer, you'll get tricked into thinking that it works well for everyone because you maybe had like a lot of your warm traffic, people who come through your organic content, people who came through referrals, who signed up through that offer. But someone who's like just seen your advert today and is scrolling through social media and is sitting there thinking about like their fat rolls and how they feel like shit, they're not going to be like, oh yeah, I really want a 30-day trial with 16 or 18 group PT sessions and a nutrition plan where I can test it out for 30 days and it's more than a gym. Like that's not a very compelling offer to someone who's just discovered you in that way. So it does not work with paid traffic very well. Okay. So instead, what we want to do is build the elements of a cold traffic offer, which we'll run through very quickly here, which is two core elements, which are the person and the problem. Okay. So the person is essentially who you're going to target. So, like, is it people who want to lose weight? Is it, women over 40? Is it men over 40? Is it beginners? But some kind of picture of like who you're actually looking to target, not just anyone who can pay you. Okay. And then you think about the problems that those people have. So if you're looking at people who want to lose weight or women over 40, what do they specifically struggle with? Okay. So what are their struggles? And you want to think of this in a few different areas. So one is like the physical elements. So how do they look? Where have they got fat? Where have they got lacking in muscle? If that's your target audience, like physically, what do they struggle with? What do they dislike about themselves and their current situation? Okay. Then you have emotional. So like, how does that make them feel? If they've got these struggles physically, or they've got these struggles in terms of like energy and all that kind of stuff, like how does that make them feel? Then you got situational as well. So what things have they tried in the past that maybe didn't work? What things are they trying now that they're struggling to actually see results from? So you've got all the different elements of not just, are they struggling to lose weight? It's like, what do they look like? What do they dislike about that? How does that make them feel? What are they trying or what have they tried in the past that doesn't work and they're frustrated about? And you start to get a better picture of who you're trying to target. Then you've got the two reward elements, which are the promise and the plan. Okay. So the promise is essentially the result. Like, what are you going to promise that they achieve? And I like to have one, excuse my handwriting with this as we go through it, by the way. One headline promise, like a big result. So, for example, if you want to lose 10 to 20 pounds of body fat in the next 6 weeks, and then have like 2 to 3 sub promises. Okay. And these can be a mix of things that are positive. So, lose 10 to 20 pounds of body fat in the next 6 weeks and feel like your old self again and feel, fit back in your old jeans or something like that. And you can also have some negative ones where it's like without some of the things they want to avoid. So without having to, do restricted diets or long boring cardio or something like that. Okay. So you've got like a big headline promise. This is what will help you get. And then some sub promises of like, and you'll also experience these positive things without these negative things. Then you need to have a plan. Like, how are you going to actually help them get that result? Like, what are the steps that they're going to go through? Okay. And two ways I like to do this is one, the sequence approach, where you say, first we'll do this, then we'll do that, then we'll do this. So, first we'll bring you in for your intro session, take you through your measurements, and we'll assign you to a coach and put you on a custom nutrition plan, and you'll walk through so they can visualize what it's going to look like. Or you can do the classic like feature benefits. You'll get 18 group PT sessions, so that benefits, so that you're, coach step by step and know exactly what to do to get great results. You'll get a customized nutrition plan, so you're eating the exact right amount to lose body fat and whatever it is. Okay, so you can do the feature benefit approach with that. So that's the reward side of things. Then you have the risk side of things with the offer. So you have two risk elements, which are protection, which is essentially a risk reversal, which we'll talk about in a second, and then payment. So this is making it easy for them to get started. Okay. So talk about the risk reversal first. I love, and I've loved for a long time, the two times money back guarantee. So if you don't get results, we will give you double your money back. Now, a lot of people kind of combat me on this and say that I don't want to do that. It sounds risky, but you make it conditional. Okay. So, like, to be eligible for the guarantee, and this is perfectly reasonable to do, you have to show up to your, 18 sessions over the course of the 6 weeks. You have to track your nutrition. You have to check in with your coach on a weekly basis, and you have to do your measurements at the beginning, middle, and end of the program. Okay, so essentially you just have to actually do the program. And as a gym owner, if they do that, they will get results because you've designed your gym to do that. Okay, and if they don't do that, they haven't completed the program, they're not eligible for the guarantee. But this guarantee, two times money back, shows a massive amount of confidence to cold traffic. So people who have just seen an ad and they see great results on your sales page or in your adverts themselves, and they're thinking, oh, maybe that sounds really good. Maybe it's too good to be true. But if you're like, look, we're so confident in this, we'll give you double your money back if you don't get results. That does a lot for getting people over the line who might be a little bit hesitant. Okay. Then in terms of payments, you want to offer two options. Paid in full option, so one where they can pay upfront in full for the 6 week challenge, for example, at £200. But then also offer a split pay. So I used to be dead against doing a split pay. I thought, if you couldn't afford the full amount up front, there's no way you're going to be able to afford, the membership on the back end. We've tested this out over probably over 1,000, people who've gone through the process and done the split pay, and we've seen no difference between the percentage of people that convert who paid in full on the front end and the percentage of people who convert who did the split pay on the front end. Okay, some people will just prefer, again, when they're very new into the work, your world as the gym owner, will prefer to just split that first payment. It feels like an element of like spreading the risk a little bit. If I get in and I hate it and it's, not what it was advertised as, then I've only paid £100 rather than 200. Okay. And again, something else to consider that people ask me about, and this is like, do people bail and not do the second payment? Yes, some people do, but it's a very, very small percentage. Like a percentage that I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it's not even worth worrying about. We've done this for years and years at my gym, and it was never an issue that we had, infinite amount of people bailing on that second payment. It's just the odd one here or there. Okay. So they're your risk elements, having a money back guarantee to make it feel risk free, and then having an easy way to get started by offering a split pay. Then you've got two push elements to help get people over the line. Okay. One is urgency, and the other one is scarcity. Okay. So urgency is essentially just having a deadline. It's saying this is when, you need to get started. Now, you can do this in two ways. You can do next challenge start date. So our next challenge starts this Saturday. That's still a deadline. That's still some element of urgency. If you want to get started as soon as possible, it's this week. Okay. Then you can have last date to get started. So if you're running a specific variation, like a repackaged version of your 6 week challenge, where it's like, the summer shred or the New Year challenge or, the Santa shred or whatever it is, you can be like the last chance to get started on this challenge is X date. Okay. So depending on whether it's like the evergreen roll and they can start every week, you can use next. If you've got a specific packaging of the offer at the moment, you can use last. Okay. Then scarcity is just limited places. Now, you can always use genuine scarcity. I, you should never use like fake scarcity, like only three spots available if there isn't only three spots available. But you don't have an unlimited capacity to start new members every single week. You might only be able to actually onboard 5 to 10 people a week. So you can just use that. You can be like, we have 5 spaces this week. That can be your rolling ongoing. Like we've got 5 spots available. So that's someone who's just seen your ad, who's thinking about becoming a lead and thinking about signing up. If you're like, the next challenge starts this Saturday, we've got 5 spaces available. They're both true, and it both adds an element of urgency and scarcity to kind of push them over the line. And then if you're doing the last chance to get started, like a repackaged offer, you can be like, the last chance to get started on our, summer shred is this Saturday. We only have 20 spaces available or whatever it is, okay, for the entire like program. So that's your cold traffic offer when you know like the person and the problems that they face, and you present them with a promise and a plan. You have a clear risk reversal in the protection element. You've got easy way for them to get started with payment options, and you have urgency and scarcity. Then you can build an offer that is way more compelling to cold traffic than we have a 30-day trial, come test us out. Okay. So that's the first part of that. The second thing then building into it is the actual paid ad system itself. And this is how we get, leads and sales every single week. So as we looked at before, paid ads feeds into that cold traffic offer that we just covered to generate leads. They can then sign up and pay on the payment page. And then the propaganda emails in the back end are doing some work on that. And then the sales process of calls and SMS are doing some work to generate some additional sales as well. Okay. And our aim is to take as many of these leads that we generate from the paid ads and turn them into paying clients. Okay. Now, the way you want to think about paid ads is exactly like this. You want to build a machine where you can put £5 or $5 in and get, £10 or $10 out. And you want to think of this as an investment. Okay. Ad spend is an investment rather than an expense in the truest sense because it goes out and when your system is set up correctly, generates more money. You send out £5 via ad spend, it brings £10 back. Okay. And that's what we're looking to do consistently and view it as an investment overall. So, like, as an example, you might spend 500 quid on ads. You want that to go out and bring a grand of cash back in basically the same week. And that's also going to give you, uh, 5 to 10 new clients. And those clients then, a percentage of those will convert into members on the back end and pay 2 or 3 grand a year. And you just keep doing that. Put another 500 in, get 1,000 out, get 5 to 10 new clients, convert some into members, more revenue on the back end. And it's like this investment machine. Okay. So I think that we're looking at here, like as an overarching view of what ads look like is, in the simplest process, we invest in paid ads, we show the ads to an audience, and we profitably acquire some clients. So, we spend £100, we make £200 back. We collect some of that revenue. Because it's profitable, we reinvest into paid ads, and this continues on. And this whole process can be self-funding. Okay. We can spend £500 on ads this week, show them those ads to an audience, get some clients who pay us 200 quid each, collect a grand of revenue, and we've collected 2 times our money back before the ads bill is even due. Okay. And we just want to continue to do that on and on and on. Now, the number that is super important when it comes to ads is not cost per lead, like a lot of people kind of obsess over, but it's cost per acquisition. Okay. So how much does it cost in ad spend for us to acquire one new paying client? Okay. So what do we spend on ads to get one new client? So as an example, if we spend, 50 to £100 on ads, and that gets us a new client that pays us £200, then we're happy. Okay. Got our cost per acquisition is in a good range because for every 50 to £100 we spend on ads, we got £200 back. Okay. And the question we're always asking when it comes to ads and acquisition cost is our CPA acceptable? So, okay, so not like, is it the lowest it could possibly be? Is it acceptable? Because there's a level where we're just happy to spend that amount of money to get a new client and kind of double our money on the front end. It's like, could you get it a little bit lower? Could you move your acquisition cost from 100 quid to 80 quid? Maybe. There's no guarantee that any of the changes that you make are going to work. And also the work that goes into it might not even really be worth the extra 20 quid that you're going to save on the front end versus taking all that time that you invested in saving 20 quid on the front end, increasing your ad spend, doing more sales activity, getting more sales and having more throughput through this system. Okay. So again, as an example, just to hammer this home on the numbers, like if you can spend £100 on ads and get a client that pays you £200, you've made two times your money back, so it's the two times return on ad spend. And a lot of people will say, oh, spending £100 to get a new client sounds a lot. But if you can double your money on the front end, that's a win. Okay. Now to scale this up a little bit, if you spend £1,000 on ads and then that brings 2K back, then still you've, two times return on ad spend, but you've also got 10 new clients. Excuse my writing. Okay, so you've collected that 2K from those 10 clients, but then you might also convert 50% of those into members, which means you get five new clients who pay you, 2K, let's say, over the next year. So you've collected another 10 grand of revenue. So you've turned that £1,000 into 2K on the front end and 10 grand on the back end. Now, if you could do this every week or every month, suddenly you've got a system that's compounding really well to generate a good amount of profitable front end revenue and then a good amount of back end revenue, from the clients that you've ultimately converted. Okay. So in terms of the campaign structure and how you actually set these ads up and what that should look like, obviously I'm not going to run through Ads Manager on this training, but I want you to get a good idea of the kind of structure that you should have, the kind of ads that you should be running. Okay, so the simplest thing to understand with ads to begin with is that every campaign has three levels. You've got the campaign level. This is where we set the objective of the campaign. Now, for gyms like ours, in this instance where we're trying to generate leads and sales, the objective is going to be leads. Okay, you don't want to set it up for traffic or video views or DMs or anything else other than what you're actually trying to get, which is leads by way of people's contact information. Okay, then the second element is, or the second level, I should say, is the ad set. And this is where we're going to decide who we're going to show your ads to, where we're going to show the ads, so like the placements, and then what we're going to spend. Okay. So who to, where, and how much we're going to spend. Then you got level number three, which is the ads themselves. This is just your copy and creative. So what people are actually going to see, in the newsfeed, on Reels, on stories, whatever it might be. Now, when it comes to the campaign, really easy, set the objective as leads. Not too much more to do on that side of things. When it comes to the ad sets, what we advise these days is having two ad sets, okay? And everyone needs ad set number one, which is the cold ad set. This is primarily going to be the one that you spend the most money on. You're looking for a return, and that's going to go and generate, the high volume of leads that you are ideally looking to get. Then the second ad set is a warm ad set. And this is where we're going to retarget people who have engaged with your social media, people who are on your email list, people who have watched specific videos, people who have become a lead. Okay. This one is just going to be very simply retargeted, like I say, at people who are in your warm audience. And you're going to spend 5 to 10 quid a day on this just to show content to these people that is relevant to them at the point that they're at, which is they're engaged with you, maybe they're a lead, maybe they're considering signing up. So can we show them specific ads that are relevant just to those people? Okay. The main ad set, the cold one, where you're going to spend the bulk of your money to try and generate leads and get attention and show people your offer. In terms of targeting, we're just going to do this very broad. Okay. There's only a couple of things we're going to target based on location. So rule of thumb is like 3 to 5 mile, in some cases 3 to 7 mile radius from your gym. You can actually drop a pin on your location and choose that radius. But a good rule of thumb again with this is within a 20-minute drive of your location. So if you're like someone's like a 30-minute drive away, it's unlikely that they're going to become a paying client because you'll get objections around it's too far. Okay, so location is one. Second one is age and gender. I actually don't really target by gender that much anymore unless you have like a female or a male only specific gym. Age, you can narrow this down by who typically buys from you because you might get lots of reach and lots of leads from people in certain age ranges, but they don't actually buy. So like as an example for my gym, we used to get a lot of, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds because we were in a city that had a lot of universities, but those people would ultimately not be the ones that were buying consistently. So instead of showing our ads to those people, we just narrowed the targeting down to be like 25 and up. And that meant that we actually had a better chance of the leads that opted in are people who were actually able to buy. Okay. And then you're going to set your budget here as well. You can set your budget here as well. And simple target for budget, without getting into the nitty-gritty of it, is your cost per acquisition multiplied by your sales target, and that being your weekly budget. So if you spent, last week you spent £100 to get one new paying client, and maybe you signed up three people, and then this week you want to get like five sales, then you would be looking at five times your acquisition cost of £100 to have a £500 budget for that week. Okay, so your target is five new clients. Your acquisition cost, the amount of money you spend to get one new paying client was £100. So in order to hit that target this week, you need to spend £500. And this is a very common thing where people say, my ads aren't working, I'm not getting good volume of leads or sales, and they're just not spending enough. It's not that the ads need to change. It's not that there's an issue with the page or the sales process. It's that you're spending 100 quid and expecting five sales when there's no way that that's actually going to happen based on the metrics that you're actually seeing. Okay. So you need to spend appropriately. Now, when it comes to the actual ads themselves, in this cold campaign going out to new audiences, like broad people in your area, in your general location, we like to have two different types of ads. Okay. The days of just doing a couple of variations of we're looking for 10 men in, blah, 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 and just running those alone and expecting those to work are largely gone. Those kind of ads do still work, but not in isolation. Okay. So we have three to five, what we call problem ads. Okay, so like depending on your level of ad spend, somewhere between three to five. If you've got massive ad spend, like a few grand a week, then we can go higher than that. But generally, these ads are focused on the struggles that your clients have. So the bulk of the ad is you talking about a struggle and showing that you understand, the things that they're going through. Maybe you talk about if you're always stuck yo-yo dieting, or if you're sick of going to Slimming Club and losing 1 pound this week and gaining two the next and all that kind of stuff. Then you show that you understand and what they're going through in their language. You position yourself as an authority, and then you have a very soft call to action at the end. If you want to overcome this specific problem, our 6 week challenge shows you how to A, B, C, click the link to sign up today. Okay, so the last 10 seconds of the ad is a soft call to action. Then we have the more traditional pitch ads. Okay, so three to five pitch ads where we're talking about the specific program. So obviously we love 6 week challenge. So we're talking about, we're looking for 10 men who want to get started, or who want to lose 6 to 10 pounds of body fat in the next 6 weeks and feel like they're all self again. Here's how we're going to help you do that. Talk about the sequence of events and then a strong call to action. Okay. And different variations of the pitch ad. We're looking for next challenge starts in if you want XYZ, like a question hook, like different hooks, but then talking about the program in largely the same way. Okay. And what will happen is your ads overall these days with the Meta Andromeda update work as a portfolio. Okay, so it's not just like, oh, this ad worked well, so let's turn all the others off and scale that one up. It's that people might see ad number one talking about yo-yo dieting and they won't become a lead. And they'll be like, well, that gym knows what they're talking about. Then they'll see a pitch ad where you're saying, we're looking for 10 people in Liverpool who want X, Y, Z. And they'll be like, well, that looks interesting, but not convinced yet. Then they might see, another problem ad and then you'll hit a nerve on this one. It'll be very specific to them, okay? And then they'll see another pitch ad, a different variation of that, and they'll become a lead through this one. And you'll be like, oh, ad number four is absolutely killing it. But it was actually a combination of ad one, ad four, ad five, ad three that actually did the job. It was just this one that got the last click attribution, okay? So you need a variation of ads. You need diverse, creative, not just the same thing over and over again. Different angles, different creative, different visuals, different hooks. Then when it comes to the warm ad set, which as I say is a secondary ad set within the campaign that not everybody needs right away, but it's really, really useful because you're going to show content to people who are engaged with you somewhat a little bit further down the funnel, so to speak, and show ads that are specific to them. And again, we have two types for this, which is three to five what we call propaganda ads. And these are essentially ads that like answer common questions and overcome objections that people might have about like making a buying decision. So really simple things like how much is it? Like a whole ad talking about how much is the challenge and then framing that against, why it's great value versus PT or why a budget gym seems budget, but when you actually break it down, like it's costing you more than it would to come here and all that kind of stuff. So you might have one ad that's specific to that. You might have one ad that's like a gym tour. You might have one ad that's talking about why it's never the right time. So like a specific objection, okay? And you're breaking that down. These work well again as this portfolio kind of process where people might have seen a problem ad and another problem ad and thought these guys know what they're talking about. Then they see a pitch ad, but they're not 100% sure. And then they go see the how much is it ad. And I'm like, oh, actually, now I understand like the value of that now because you've spoken about it clearly. Then I've seen another ad where it walks through, what happens when I get started on the first day. And then when they see, pitch ad number 6, they're like, right, I'm in. I've seen all the information I needed to see. I've been nurtured rather than just seeing one same pitch ad like all the gyms are throwing out these days. You've nurtured them through the appropriate content to get them to that point. Okay. Then the last type of ad in here is what we call proof ads. This is just your testimonials and results. Okay. It doesn't really matter what the format of this is. It's just really useful to have them that people can see other people just like them who get results and enjoy being at your gym. Okay. So those ads then all push through into them becoming a lead, them seeing the offer, them becoming a lead, and a percentage of those go through and land on the payment page, so the skip the queue page, where they see a summary of the offer and they're able to pay straight away, either in full or via the split pay, like we spoke about earlier. Okay. The next thing then, after people, opt in via the ads, is the propaganda email sequence. Okay. And this is how we create more qualified leads. So people see the ad, they see the offer, they become a lead. Some go on the payment page and buy right away. Others get the sequence of propaganda emails where they can then, again, be nurtured through the process. Because what we don't want to do is, again, what a lot of gym owners do, which is have a lead come in and like, oh, great, someone wants to, sign up, and then they call or text them one time. And then they're like, oh, that person's not interested. Why did they fill the form in if they weren't interested? Like, what was the point in that? And it's like, that's not how it works. Okay. What actually happens is when you generate leads through cold traffic specifically, you're going to get 5% of people who just will never buy. These are the people who thought it was free, don't remember filling in the form, are like asking who you are, hanging up the phone. You need to accept that these people exist, not let it piss you off too much, and just move on with your day. Okay. Then you're gonna have 5% of people who are just ready to buy. So if you get 100 leads, there'll be 5% that are just like, doesn't matter what you do, they're gonna buy regardless. Okay. They'll just sign up. They'll sign up on the payment page without you ever speaking to them. They'll sign up immediately when you get them on a call or whatever it is. These people are great. We love these people, but it's a small percentage of the total leads that you're going to generate. The rest, the middle 90%, are open to buying. They're interested, but they're not sure 100% if they're going to buy yet at all, or whether they're going to buy specifically from you, because there's obviously other options out there. There's people they could buy from, online coaches, PTs, other gyms. Like, you're not the only person. So it's naive to think that, well, if they've opted in and become a lead with me, I just need to call them and they'll sign up. It's not going to be the case. It's your responsibility to take as many of this 90% into the ready to buy end of the column as you possibly can. Okay. And we do this with the propaganda emails, which are 15 emails over 3 to 5 days, in the immediate 3 to 5 days after they become a lead. Okay. And the idea with these, and how it actually works in practice, is to help them make a buying decision. Okay. So all the information that they need to actually buy. Because someone sees an ad, they opt in, they're somewhat interested, but they want to know, how much is it? They want to know, how does it work? They want to know, does this work for other people? Like, do they get results? They want to know, what does the gym look like? They want to know, I want to build muscle, so is there a program specific for me? Okay. So we answer all these questions in these 15 emails. So like 3 to 5 emails a day for 3 to 5 days. Yes, you'll piss some people off and they'll unsubscribe, but they were going to be the people that weren't going to buy anyway. Okay. But a large portion of this middle 90% are going to be actually very open to consuming these emails, and a percentage of those then will go on and buy because you nurtured them and educated them on how you get results, shown that you like have proof of the results that you generate, and they'll become buyers. Other people who don't buy will still have been educated. They might not buy today, but they might buy later down the line when they are ready, because they fully understand how you work, you've, cemented yourself as an authority to them. So when they are ready and they want to get in shape, then you become the default option. Okay. So this is a really important process within that. The second thing then, or the next thing after people, opt in and become a lead is the closing system. So how do we actually turn the leads into paying clients? So we've got the ads feeding into the offer, they become a lead, propaganda emails are doing their job, but then we actually need to contact them and sign them up. And you've got two options with this, which is one, which is call, and two, which is SMS. Okay. So call's really good. It still works really well, but it can be quite time consuming. And increasingly these days, we've seen, not everyone wants to get on a sales call. Okay. And if you're like a one-man band or you've got a small team, it can be hard when you're coaching in the evenings to match your times and your availability with people who, with the availability of the people who have become leads. Like they're free after work, you're coaching after work. Okay. So calls work really well if you've got great sales skills and you've got the availability, but SMS closing works extremely well too. And the benefits of this are it's asynchronous, so you can like, I can send you a few messages now, and then when I go coach, maybe you'll text me back whilst I'm coaching, but I can pick it up after the sessions and you can continue the conversation that way. And again, there's a percentage of people that just don't want to get on sales calls. I would be one of those people. If I can't buy without getting on an hour-long sales call, I'm not generally going to buy, okay, unless it's something that I really, really want. Okay, so SMS works really well for this, but whether you do SMS or sales call, the process should remain the same. Okay, so you get a lead and they should land on, your sales tracker. You should have a set process like we have for our clients where they land on the sales tracker. You can see I have a new lead and now I need to take them through step one, step two, step three in terms of follow-up. Okay. They're then going to go into your call or SMS follow-up. We like to do this daily for 3 days. Okay, so if it's SMS, this is automated until they respond. Then we go into the conversation flow manually. If it's call, you need to manually call them day by day until you get them into a conversation. After 3 days, we've seen that the amount of people that you actually have contact with drops off a cliff and is almost not worth following up with. We used to do 5 days and we've cut it right down to 3 days for that specific reason. Okay. But ultimately, it's just trying to get them on a call or into an SMS conversation so you can speak to them and run through, their goals and all that kind of stuff, and then ultimately make the sale. And then in the back end, you've got skip the queue page working, and you've got the propaganda emails working as well. So like someone might respond on day three and end up in an SMS conversation or a sales call. But by that point, they might have received, 9 to 12 emails from you and kind of be like, I know all the information. And then this conversation is much easier and, they're ready to close. Okay. Now, the actual conversation process, again, whether you do it by call or SMS, works in the same way. First, we're just trying to connect with them. So actually start the conversation itself. So them pick up the phone or them reply to a text message. Then we can qualify. This is optional. I like to do this if you've got a massive amount of volume. Okay. If you've got more leads than you really need and can handle, and you want to be as slick and as time efficient as you can be with the sales process, you can budget qualify them right at the start. Hey, this is £195 for our 6 week challenge. Like, is that something you're going to be able to afford? And then if it's an answer no, then you can, nicely kind of wind down the conversation. And if it's yes, then you can proceed from there. Okay. Now, the next thing then, regardless of whether you do the budget qualifier or not, is talking about their goals. So you start off with an easy question, which I always like to use this or that. So are you looking to build strength and muscle or, lose weight and tone up? Makes it really easy. Pick this one or that one. If you just say, what are your goals? Your response rate will be very low because it's a harder question to answer. It's vague. They could say a million things. They don't know what to say, and they haven't even got into a conversational relationship with you yet. So just ask them this or that. Are you trying to do this or that? And they can respond. Then once you know which one it is, then you can get deeper. If they say they want to lose body fat, you can, start figuring out like what amount and by when. Okay. You can get deeper into that process and figure out like, can you help them? Have they got appropriate goals? Whatever it might be. Then if they're a good fit, if you've gone through that part of the conversation, and again, this works really well via SMS. If they're a good fit, you can tell them, I think you'd be a great fit for our 6 week challenge. I'd love to help you state back whatever their specific goal is that they've mentioned when you're talking here. What questions do you have before I get started? And then you go through all the questions that they might have one of the sessions. Um, how do the programs work, whatever it is, you can run through all of that. And then when they've got no more questions, then you can offer them the close. Okay. And when you do this via SMS, you can say, okay, so we can get you started on this date or this date. Do you want me to send a link? And then do you want me to send a link or do you want to jump on a 2 minute call? So you can give them the option of a call. Almost everyone, like literally 99% of people will say, just send the link over. Okay, so give them 2 day options. So again, it's a this or that. Do you want to start this Saturday or next Saturday? This Saturday. Okay, do you want me to send the link over or do you want to jump on a 2 minute call and get you set up that way? Almost everyone says the link. Then you take payment, you run them through the process and get them booked in for their intro session. Okay. So this works extremely well, whether you do it via call or SMS. So then you've got paid ads feeding into your cold traffic offer, generating leads. Some of those leads sign up right away through your skip the queue page. Then you got your propaganda emails nurturing the rest whilst you do your call or SMS process to close as many people as you can into paying clients and ultimately take them into your back end conversion process. Now, I said I touched on content and DM closing. Now, a couple of things with this are content wise. I just like to think of this in the 5 Ps. Okay. And we call content, DM closing, and email, which I'll talk about in a second, kind of like the amplifiers. These are things that aren't going to be like huge amount of volume. You're not going to make 5, 10, 15 sales a week from content and email, but you might pick up one from content and one from DM closing and one from email and one from referrals and all these different things kind of add up over the course of the year. Okay. But in terms of content types, what good way to think of it is the 5 Ps. So you have like proof-based content that shows what you're talking about, problem-based content that shows that you understand your clients, personal content that is specific to like your story or your coach's story or like the gym origin or whatever it might be, playbook content that like breaks down specific things. Here's how you calculate your calories for fat loss. It's authority based. And then pitch content that talks about like your program and your offer. Okay. So if you just posted once a week and covered all of the, sorry, once a day, even Monday to Friday and covered these, you get a good binge bank of content that people who discover you via ads can see. They get results. They understand me. I know their personality. They know what they're talking about, and I know what their offer is. And then when they're scrolling through, they go from, "Oh, I'm not really sure about this gym to like, I know what they're about, who they are, the results they get, who they serve, and that they, have a level of authority in what they do. Okay. Then you do DM closing. This is just to warm people. Okay. So you reach out and start conversations with people who have engaged, people who follow, people who have commented, people who have like voted on a poll or liked the story. So we're not just spamming cold DMs, you're like specifically targeting people who are in your warmer audiences. Then, as I mentioned before, you've got your infinite email. So anyone who doesn't sign up goes into the infinite email sequence to ultimately have them come back and buy later down the line. This is for people who have longer conversion windows. Some people will sign up in the 3 to 5 days after they become a lead. Other people, it might be 2 or 3 weeks or, you know, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, whatever it is. So you have your infinite emails where you're marketing 1 to 2 emails a week to your list to nurture and make offers. Then you have specific email launches that you run a few times a year or once a quarter that like mops up additional sales from that list that you've been nurturing. Okay. So that's system number one in terms of front end sales. System number two is back end conversion. So it's converting clients into long-term members. Now, this is really straightforward. We have a streamlined onboarding process. We take them through your intro program, like your 6 week challenge. Then we have your back end offer structure. So what does the actual membership offer look like? And then we have the conversion process where we actually take payment and turn them into a paying client. Okay. So the first part of this is the group onboarding process. Now, a couple of options that people tend to do with onboarding is one-to-one, which is a really good experience. Like, no doubt that onboarding someone one-to-one is a good experience for the client, but it's extremely inefficient when it comes to time. Okay. So, like, if you have 10 new people, that takes you 10 hours at least. And that's before you factor in no shows, reschedules, all that kind of stuff. So you're probably more looking at like 12 to 13 hours, if not more. Okay. The other thing is that this kind of limits your growth as well because you're in a position where the growth of the business is restricted by how many people you can onboard. If you can only do two, three, four, five onboarding sessions a week, and you need six, seven, or eight people a week to actually outpace your natural level of cancellations and grow, then you're not going to be able to do it. It'd be impossible to do, and it's just because you're hindered by your onboarding process. Okay. The other option is straight to class, where this isn't a great experience where someone signs up and their first session is just they're just walking to the gym on the gym floor. They don't know anyone. They don't know what to do. They just have to get started. It's shit for them. It's hard for the coaches because they're trying to like kind of half onboard a new person whilst also coaching the session. And this then impacts current members as well, which obviously isn't ideal. So everyone's getting a bad experience, so to speak. Okay. What we prefer is what we call group onboarding, where you have 10 people in one session. Okay, so 10 people, it takes us 1 hour. We do this on a Saturday morning, and that means that it's extremely time efficient. Uh, that should be a tick, but it's extremely time efficient. And it's a really great experience. Okay. When you do this properly, it's a great experience. You're onboarding people in a group into a group setting for them to go onto a group training program. Okay. So it works really well. Now, the overarching structure of how this should work is part number one is the welcome. This is like 5 to 10 minutes where you're doing icebreakers, you're doing introductions, you're getting everyone comfortable in the room. Then you do a presentation that runs through how it works. So, like what they get in the program, how the programs are going to work, who their coach is going to be, how they get their nutrition targets. You are not educating them on the ins and outs of training and nutrition. You are getting them ready to start their program on Monday morning, okay, or Monday evening, whenever they're going to book in their first session. Then you do measurements. So if you're focused on like getting results for your clients, you should do some measurements at the start. So like take their stats, like use an in-body scanner, know what their start point is so you can track their progress. Then take them through a mini session. This is for nothing more than them just getting a feel of being on the gym floor and being coached. So when they come in, on a Monday morning, Monday evening for their first session, they've already been on the gym floor. They already know what the sessions look like. They already know how it feels to be there, and they're ready to get started. This, when you do it well, is 60 minutes max, okay? And if you have less than 10 people, measurement section is shorter, so it can be, 45, 50 minutes, okay? But this means that 60 minutes, you got 10 people ready for their session, onboarded all in one go. They've met the coaches, they know how it works, they've met some other people. It's a great experience for them across the board, okay? Then obviously you take them through the program. Then you have to have a back end offer, something that you can actually present to them on the back end. Okay. So, like, how do we maximize conversions from trial into member? Now, a weak option for this, which is what a lot of gyms do, is like, so do you want to become a member? Like, do you want to stick around? Some people don't even have a conversation at all. They just send an email with some membership options in there. Okay. It's a weak way to do it. It doesn't work as well as it could. Okay. A stronger way is to present your membership offer as the next logical step. Okay. So what's the next thing, the next step in their journey? Like you've sold them on the initial 6 week challenges, like this is a 6 week transformation, it's the kickstart and all that kind of stuff. So how do you then reframe the next step as the next logical part of their journey? So saying something along the lines of you've made great progress over the last 6 weeks, we need to solidify these results, continue building on them. Here's how we're going to do it. Every month for the next 90 days, or the next 6 months, or whatever it is, we're going to have measurements, we're going to assign it to a program, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You frame it in a way that they can see, this is the next logical step for me to take, not just, do you want to stick around to become a member, just kind of get more of what you've already been getting, hope you enjoy it kind of thing. Okay. So you need to frame it that way. And then you also need to simplify your membership options. Okay. More options equals less conversion. So when you have like, you can sign up for one a week, you can sign up for two a week, you can sign up for eight a month, or there's 12 a month, and we've got unlimited, and then you can stick around for 3 months or 6 months or 12 months, and there's a plus PT premium option and yoga and all these different kind of things. People just get confused and they either don't make a buying decision and just go back to the gym they were in before, or they just choose based on price and you end up with loads of people on the 1 a week option and you end up begrudging even offering that in the first place. So what we like to do is simplify this down to have 1 to 2 access options. So like how often they can train, and then 1 to 2 commitment options. So how long they actually stick around for. Now, on the access side of things, I love the unlimited option, okay? Because few reasons for this. Like one is it increases the perceived value at the conversion point. If someone's had 3 sessions a week during this 6 week challenge, and you say, when you convert, you get unlimited access to the gym, the perceived value of that goes up, even if they're not going to train more than 3 times a week anyway. Okay. This means that you end up with more conversions because people are just like, oh, this is more valuable. And also it simplifies it down. They don't have that decision paralysis. It's just like you have unlimited access. Do you want to stick around for 3 months or 12 months? Okay, so it's really simple. Like, do you want to stick around? This is what you get. Not trying to choose between, all these different options and do I need the yoga add-on? Do I need the 12 a month? I'm not really sure. Should I go unlimited? You just tell them this is what you get. How long do you want to stick around for? Okay. And then it also decreases cancellations. So we've seen this as a very, very common trend where people have like a 12-month option or a 3 a week option. And then you have members that come to you and say, oh, I'm only getting in 6 times a week, 6 times a month, sorry, or 7 times, whatever. And they're doing the math in their head thinking, I'm paying for 12, I'm using 8. I'm either overpaying for the sessions that I'm using or I'm not getting my money's worth. Okay. So you get cancellations for underutilization and people who otherwise wouldn't have cancelled if you gave them unlimited access. No one is going, oh, I didn't get in unlimited times this month, so I'm going to cancel. Okay. And it also allows you when it's unlimited to point the value away from the sessions themselves, like just being the sessions. If you price per session, then naturally your members are like, well, I'm paying this amount per session. If I'm not getting all them sessions in, I'm wasting my money. Whereas if you give them unlimited access, when they can't come in as often, you can say things like, look, ideally we want you to get in 3 times a week, but if you can only get in once, that's absolutely fine. Sometimes that's how life works. It gets busy and all that kind of stuff. So what we'll do during this period, whilst things are busy for you, is let's go on maintenance mode. Let's get in once a week, but we'll set your nutrition targets at this level. We'll also, set you as targets for steps and all that kind of stuff. Then when work quietens down, like, then we can get back up to 2 or 3 sessions a week. And you're delivering value in other ways. And it's easy to do that because that's a whole part of the service. You have an attached price to sessions. Okay, so you just essentially, when you offer unlimited, you give them full access, but it's up to 1 session per day. So they're not using many, many multiple sessions. It also means if they book 6 a.m. and no show, they can't then book, an evening one and waste another slot. Okay. But generally, just as a, data on this, even when you give people unlimited, they still come 2 to 2.5 times per week on average. I've never seen any data above that. My gym was always 2.2 times a week was the average. I've never seen a gym have members on average across the whole membership base come more than 2.5 times a week. So you're not going to be overrun with people training 5 days a week and 6 days a week. You might have a few of those people, but it won't average out at that number. Now, if you don't want to do unlimited or you want to offer another option, then you can do up to 3 sessions a week. I don't like 8 a month, 12 a month. Like some people use their sessions early. There's longer months where there's like the weeks are longer and all that kind of shit. It doesn't work as well as just doing weekly and it doesn't roll over. So you get up to 3 a week. If you're only using 2, it's fine. But you get up to 3. That's your access level. So it allows you to cap it. They're not paying for the amount of sessions. They're just paying for access and they can't use more than this amount. Okay. Your other option is you can use a combination of both. So you can go, you get unlimited. This is a higher price, 200 a month or whatever it is. And then you can have a 3 a week option. This might be the lower value one, but this would be like your core price, the least that you want to charge. So this isn't less, like it's not a discount. This is your baseline price, and this is a higher value version. Okay. Then in terms of commitment options, again, I like 1 to 2 options on this. Like for a long time at my gym, we were just like, it's unlimited access. You get 3 months and then rolling. Okay. And that works really well because you get easier conversions. It's really easy for people to commit to 3 months. This works well if you've got plenty of space. So if you just expanded or you're a new gym or you've like, I can fit another 60 members in. And like, yes, you might have a little bit earlier churn with some people on this, but you got the space. So like, let's get more people through the door and more people converted on the back end. Your second option is 12 months. This gives you stickier revenue. So this is good if you're like close to capacity and you're almost like, I can only handle like 5 new members a month and you want those to like stick long term, then you can be like, it's unlimited and it's a 12-month commitment. Okay. You will get less conversions overall with this option just because it's a longer commitment. But if you're in the position where you're close to capacity, that doesn't necessarily matter as much. Then you can do a combination of both. You can be like, it's unlimited or it's up to three a week, and you can either stick around for 3 months or you can stick around for 12 months. Okay. So the 3 months can either just be a one that you offer, say it's 200 a month, and then you have like 12 months as 169 a month. Okay. And this is like what you save for committing for longer. Now you can do the 3 months where it's a clear offer, or you can do it as we've done it before, where it's like a stealth offer. Okay. So you don't show it, you don't talk about it unless it's appropriate to that person. So like I said, we used to just do uh unlimited and 3 months. We've also had periods where it's unlimited, where we were close to capacity, where it was unlimited and it's a 12-month commitment. But if we had the odd person that was like, moving back to X place in 6 months' time, we'll be like, all right, you can go on to our 3 month then rolling option. It's a higher price point because it's a lower commitment. Okay. So really simplify it where you have like 1 to 2 access options and 1 to 2 commitment options. And it will increase the amount of conversions that you get because you will have a simpler sales conversation when it comes to that point in the process. The last step in this then is member conversions themselves. Okay, so how do you actually turn trialists into members? Now, three important things on this are number one, schedule a feedback call. So you don't tell them you're going to have a sales call or a conversion call. You like reach out to them about 2/3 of the way through their program. You're like, I want to get you on a call, I want to get some feedback about the program, talk about your results, and map out the next steps. Okay, so you and I know it's going to be some element of a sales call as well, but you are genuinely going to get feedback from that person. Okay. Then the second thing is put your best closer in the game. If you've got someone, whether it's you or a head coach that like closes at a much higher percentage than anybody else, let them do all the conversion calls. Okay. I used to be a big fan and still am to a sense of like splitting the conversion calls amongst all the team, and whoever is assigned to that coach, they do the call. But if you've got one person that just like closes like a beast and the rest aren't up to that standard, let that person do the calls until you get everyone else up to that standard. And this is a big one, use commit now, pay later. Okay. So you're having that call at the 2/3, week 4, week 5 kind of point to avoid having like a two-call close where someone's like, yeah, I'm interested, but can you call me back at the end of the challenge? I'll sign up then. Or having the awkward conversations like, well, we're going to charge you now, but we'll move your next payment further along and all that kind of stuff. Just collect their payment information now, get them to choose a membership option, and then have them scheduled to actually pay the day after their challenge ends. Okay. So the reason you want to have the feedback call at that point is because this is what tends to happen. Everyone's engaged at the start and it starts to tail off towards the end. Whereas if you can get this call in like this week 4 and 5 mark, you're going to catch people at a point where most of them are still engaged. Okay. So like they're still engaged in the program and they've got results. If you do it much earlier, they're probably not going to see results. They're going to be like, oh, I want to see how I'm getting on and that kind of stuff. But if you can do it around this point and have the call with them here, most of them are still engaged. Most of them have got results. If you wait till right at the end, a lot of people have dipped off. You'll have some people that have like no showed at that point. Whereas if you'd have caught them earlier on, you can get them reset and frame the membership as the next logical step. And then you'd have them at this point commit. They choose their membership option, they give you their payment details, and then they're scheduled to pay later down the line. This works really well because it eliminates the, quote unquote, pain of paying at this point, but it allows you to get them committed. And it eliminates a lot of the like, time wasted on follow-up. Okay. So really, really simple on that process. Okay. So then you've got your two systems, you got paid ads, feed into your offer, generating leads. Some people sign up right away. You got your propaganda emails working in the background, your call and SMS closing process, ultimately generating sales, and then feeding those people into your conversion process where you're onboarding them, taking them through your challenge, making the offer, and then converting them into long-term members. Okay. And this is what allows you to have that change from, as we spoke about at the start, where you go up, and then you hit this plateau, and nothing that got you from here to here is really working, to then hitting that plateau and then actually being able to push this on again to the point where you want the gym to get, whereas, whether that's at like 100, 200, 250 members, whatever it might be.